Okay. Hello, Chip. Yes, you're a good boy. We can do this again? Yeah? You be a lap boy? Alright? Alright. Alright. So last week I made my video about how I went off of the September of no thrifting because I knew the first week of October would be lackluster because the first day of the month was the half off the store and the week after that the store is always wiped out. So last week I did go thrifting. I didn't find any dolls by the time I'd made the video. The day after I made the video I went off the other direction to the other thrift store and I found a decent handful of dolls. I found 2 Disney Store Meridas with a fully articulated body with the terrible hips so they splay, but that's nothing that a Dremel can't fix. I found a Mattel Brandi, the original one with the articulated dancing body. I found a High School Musical Sharpay. And I found a McDonald's Happy Meal Barbie that was the little this one. The version of the vintage original sculpt with Solo in the spotlight as the dress. I actually hadn't realized that Mattel had ever made a Happy Meal version of a vintage style doll. I'm sure she has a copyright on her and says McDee's like they always do, but she's wearing an actual cloth dress that is stitched fairly tightly over her body, and so, I mean, I can even feel where the print is, but I didn't want to mess with it. But looking it up, I discovered that she is from 1999, which was Barbie's 40th anniversary, so there were probably, the Happy Meal dolls that year were probably quite a range of classic Barbie styles. So I got that. And like I said, the High School Musical Sharpay, which I picked her up to begin with because the price tag on the body was the half off color for the week. And when I saw who it was, I remembered that What If Chris recently posted his doll video where he thrifted a Sharpay and acknowledged that it was a very cute sculpt. And he put the head on a grown body, so here I have the Sharpay head on a fashionista's body. And I took a good look. Well, I had thrifted this Sharpay before, and that time I customized her in the style of Nicki Minaj. That's the sound of the cat. He's getting into his box. Yes, you kitty. And then I found a new home for that doll. So this time, after Chris had thrifted her and acknowledged that she was cute, I actually looked at her and saw that she was not a celebrity sculpt. She was actually just a modified Summer. And I have pictures on my Flickr of this head compared to a Summer, so you can see how similar they are. Basically, this one is a little longer and a little wider in the nose and mouth area. So they would make great sister dolls. I don't know if I'm going to do that because I don't usually give characters to my dolls, so they wouldn't have sisters, but... So yes, this is a cute doll. I do like her face paint. Not fond of her hair just because I'm not fond of blonde hair in general on dolls. There are plenty of blonde-haired dolls in the world, so it doesn't matter if my dolls have blonde hair or not. So someday she will be rerooted. However, she's pretty far down in the reroot queue. I have some dolls who've already had the hair removed. I have other dolls who I've been thinking for years I wouldn't mind having a reroot. But for now, their hair is okay. So, this the Mattel High School Musical Sharpay head on a fashionista's body. And you know, usually when we buy a doll just for the head, we don't chuck the body. We put another head on the body, a head from a doll that had an articulated body, and then we donate that combination. This time, though, I got to looking at the High School Musical teen body and thought, well, I have this old party teen fun skipper, the cheerleader version, and this was one of the first releases of that 1987 skipper head. And she's in need of a body, so I thought, well, would that head look okay on the High School Musical body? And the answer is yes. Now I believe this body is a little bit taller, maybe a little bit wider than the original 1987 skipper body, but most of those 1987 skipper bodies, the tops of the necks have completely disintegrated, so they need other bodies. And this color match is pretty good, so I could use more articulation, of course, but as far as getting this head onto a body, I'm happy. When these dolls first came out back in the late 80s, I wasn't really impressed with them. And for a long time, I just thought they were kind of ridiculous. And then it's only within the last few years I've come around to them, partly because I have this theory, and this is totally my theory. I've never seen anything to back it up, so don't quote this as fact. But these heads were released, well, they have a 1987 copyright, so they would have been created before then. And before then is about the time that Mattel stopped working with Takara in Japan to produce Takara Barbie. Now we all know that when that broke up, Takara went on producing pretty much the same doll as Jenny, who is still around today. But I was almost wondering with this head if this was Mattel saying, well, we'll just make a Japanese doll anime manga style head for ourselves. It didn't work out. They ended up starting to sell the same Western Barbies as Barbie sold in America as sold in Japan at that time. And this head obviously is Skipper. I have no proof, of course, that it was ever meant to be anime, and when you get a Jenny head next to the Skipper head, they're not that close, but I still wonder, someone who's really good at painting either shoujo style eyes or even just painting something to look like a vintage Japanese doll, how one of these Skippers might look with that paint job. I don't think I'm good enough to paint like that. Not without a lot of work. And I do actually, well, I really like the way this doll has stock brown eyes. You know, it's not very common for American dolls with blonde hair to have brown eyes. And as a little kid that I was with blonde hair and brown eyes, I appreciate seeing that. Now I do have this other Teen Fun Skipper head. This was the party doll that I have put on a Malibu Francie body, which is in really bad shape actually. That's why she's wearing tights, because her legs are chewed up and her hands are pretty chewed up. But the color match is good, and I don't think the head and the body is too ridiculous, especially if you're thinking as Jenny doll proportions, because Jenny has a lot of leg for as small as her head is. Although I do think that this head is smaller than this head. Even though these dolls were released at the same time, I think this one's shrunken a little. But she has a completely different skin tone than this doll too. There was a third one, the Teen Fun Skipper, who was an workout doll, because it was the 80s. And her skin tone in the pictures I've seen appears to be completely different from both of these dolls. So I thought that was interesting that 3 of the same character and the same line were released with 3 different skin tones. I don't think Mattel does that much anymore, if ever. So I do have these 2, and I could try repainting their faces, but I really like both of their faces. So maybe if I do find another 1987 Skipper head in a later face version with the even bigger eyes that I don't like as much, I might try painting myself in shoujo, manga, or anime style. I might not. If anyone else does, I'd love to see it. And so I was digging through my box of doll bodies, and I decided, we got the High School Musical doll. I was able to use the body for another doll. And a while ago I actually thrifted one of the High School Musical guys. I don't know High School Musical characters. I'm a little old. But the guys, so the High School Musical guys have articulated elbows, but they had clicky legs, clicky knees. So I pulled the legs off, left the hip connectors in place, ground out the inside of the hips on a pair of gymnast articulated Ken legs, and put those on the High School Musical guy body. And then I put them away in my body box because I really want to repaint them and I really want to give them new hair. And like I said, with this doll, the repaint queue is long and slow to get worked through, so who knows when he'll get new hair or a new face. But I went ahead and pulled him out of the parts box and decided to have 2 more teen dolls. And yeah, his face is pretty bland. He's obviously a modified Ken. I think all the first wave of the High School Musical dolls, at least, were all modifications of existing sculpts. Like Gabrielle was very obviously a modified Carnival sculpt. Sharpay is a modified Summer. He's obviously modified Ken, and the other guy I think was the modified Jamal sculpt. At least I always thought he was. So anyway, yeah. I did get my new epoxy putty, and it's possible I might sculpt hair for him, but then he might not be able to wear hats. And I like him in this hat, even though this hat is just there to cover up his terrible stock hair. So, yeah. So that's him. And then another doll I mentioned that I found at thrifting was the Mattel Brandi. And I have had her before, and I don't know why I put this doll away instead of leaving her out. Hold on. I actually bought a Mattel Brandi when she was first released back in, 2001? Because even though I don't like celebrity dolls, that is such a pretty doll. So I had her for a while, and then I convinced myself that I don't like celebrity dolls, let her go. And then I found another one, thrifted. And this one I said, well, I love the head sculpt, I don't like celebrity dolls, so I commissioned Retrograde Works to give her a new face-up so that she wouldn't necessarily beat Brandi. And that's this doll. I named her Zivanya, which is a kind of Brandi, because I'm really unoriginal with doll names, and if I can make them based off of something existing, I'm probably going to. And I honestly only name dolls for the sake of file names. Like I said, I am not one of those imaginative people who's constantly writing stories and has original characters and names and personalities and stories and relationships between my dolls. I just like to see what I can do with them, not what they can do as characters. Anyway, so I've had her for a while, and then when I saw this Brandi again, because I just like the head sculpt so much, I thrifted her again, and I immediately put her on another artsy Nikki fashionista body. So this is the stock doll with the Retrograde Works custom. And I do like her stock makeup. It's just the golds and coppery color range is not really the kind of thing that my dolls usually wear, even though I say that with 2 dolls wearing brown right now. So yeah, I thought maybe I would, pass her on to someone else, but for now at least I think I'm going to keep her because this is such a pretty face. And I have, as usual, pictures of all of these are on my Flickr, and I've been talking about these for a while around. And a doll that I haven't been talking about because I've only managed to make a little bit of progress on it is what I did with one of the Merida bodies. One of the Merida dolls is wearing the dark green gown, and that stained the knees and the lower legs, which if you know the Disney store articulated dolls, the lower legs from the knees down are really soft plastic that will warp if they stand for too long or lay in the wrong position for too long. So I'm not surprised that they're stained. I will eventually maybe apply an acne cream benzoyl peroxide lightening treatment to them. But in the meantime, she has a skull for a head. well, half a skull. This is a glow-in-the-dark magnet that I have had forever. And what I did is I ground the eyes out because they were kind of shallow and also glow-in-the-dark. I filled them in with epoxy putty because, yay, I have the epoxy putty again. And then I painted them black, and then I put more of that iridescent glitter glue in them. So she has, you know, universes in her eyes. And this is, like I said, if you have any familiarity with the Disney store bodies, you know the hips are badly designed, so as they are, when they sit, the legs splay out. This is not pretty. I know people can do this better than I can, but like I think I've said before, I'm more about proof of concept than doing things in a refined, finished way. So I just ground this out, and she'll be wearing clothes most of the time anyway. So ground out the edges of the hips. Her legs can come together a little more now. And I had been hesitating on what to do about the fact that there is no back to this head. I didn't want to add a lot of extra weight to it by filling it in with epoxy putty. And as I was coming home from errands today, it occurred to me that I can put a packing peanut inside this head to fill in the cavity most of the size, and then sculpt the epoxy around that, and that will be as good as hollow and lightweight. And then I could make some clothes for her, and then have proof of concept of my ability to make a magnet into a glitter-eyed galactic skeleton doll. So that's it for now, and next week and the week after that is fall break, which means my kiddo will be home. That won't keep me from making another rambling video or two, but it will keep me from going to the thrift store. So I have plenty of dolls to work through, plenty of projects, plenty of bodies, plenty of half-started things, and reroots. Like I said, the reroots, there's always reroots. So hopefully I will continue to have interesting new dolls to show you and customizing things to tell you over the next few weeks, even though I won't go thrifting. But who knows, maybe I'll order something from the internet. That happens. Normal people do that. Not stubborn people like me. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm going to stop talking now. Thanks.